Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and I've got another book review for you, and it's from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Again, I'm reading through the Star Wars EU on the channel, and I'm up to book 5, I believe, yes, book 5, entitled Red Harvest. And so you can see by the cover, if you're not familiar, and I knew that this was definitely going to be one of the horror editions of Star Wars story. So written by Joe Schreiber, Schreiber? I think it's Schreiber. And just did a little research about him. I tried to give a little something on the author, at least some other things that he's done. And Joe Schreiber is very consistent. He definitely writes horror novels. And he has a good amount of Star Wars in his Star Wars catalog. Not all of them are horror. We have some junior novels, but we'll get to that in a second. He was born in Michigan, but really a lot of his formative years, he grew up in places like Alaska, Wyoming, and Northern California. So he was immersed in nature and a lot of different kinds of nature. And you can even see nature playing a big part of this story, and I'm sure in other stories as well. He is known for his thriller and horror novels. Some of his non-Star Wars books include No Doors, No Windows, Eat the Dark, and Chasing the Dead. I've not read those, but even the sound of them makes me think that, yeah, those are going to be pretty scary stories. His Star Wars catalog does include a number of junior novels. He does one on Solo. He has a couple on The Mandalorian. And so there's some junior novels. But yeah, 3 adult novels. And the first is Death Troopers. There's Mall Lockdown. And yes, Red Harvest is his other Star Wars adult novel. Will he write more in the future? I know that the EU is completed, but maybe they would tap him to write some ongoing canonical books. I'm not sure. But what is this plot of this story? What is Star Wars Red Harvest all about? Well, this story follows a number of characters who live on or visit a sort of off-the-grid Sith planet entitled Otisar Faustin. And this planet, Otisar Faustin, hosts and houses an ancient Sith Academy. And there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of story and tradition at this Sith Academy. And this Sith Academy is anything but like the Jedi Academy, right? Anything but the Jedi Temple. And Sith Acolytes train and they duel and they study for the purpose of wielding more and more power. And the entirety of the story, apart from when we get into the main plot, is these Sith students trying to one-up one another, always challenging one another to duels, trying to embarrass people publicly, trying to create a persona of fear and power, which is what you would expect. And so that's sort of where we come into the story. But the headmaster of the academy is a Sith Master named Darth Scabrous. And he is working behind the scenes. And what is he trying to do? He is trying to accomplish something that an ancient Sith Lord tried at that very location, which was actually to create a means to achieve immorality. And by that, I mean immortality. Probably going to do that the whole time. Immortality. There are a lot of immoral things that happen in this story. But that's not ultimately what he's trying to achieve. Immortality. But the plan is almost complete. There's actually one ingredient that he needs. Well, technically 2, but really one that he needs to make this potion, to create enough, what you'll find in the story, the stuff, to actually accomplish his goal of becoming immortal. And he's using these Sith Acolytes, these Sith students, as like test dummies. And so we'll get into maybe a little bit more of that discussion as we get into things I liked and didn't like. But there is also another character. The character's name is Hestizo, or Zoe is what she's called. She's a Jedi, but she's not just any Jedi. And I thought this was kind of an interesting approach of the book. She is a Jedi who is specially gifted in communicating with agriculture, with trees and flowers and plants. And on face value, that doesn't seem very helpful, but it's an interesting approach to the Force, meaning, as Star Wars doctrine teaches, the Force flows through every living thing. And it makes perfect sense that you would have some Jedi that would be more attuned to the Force in plant life. And Hestizo, Zoe, is one of those. And there's one specific plant, an orchid, that she's not just attuned with. They've almost kind of bonded. And this orchid ends up being that last ingredient that Darth Scabrous needs. And so there's a bounty hunter that's sent to capture the plant. Hestizo gets caught up into that and winds up on the Sith planet, and she has to try to survive. And so that's sort of a little bit of the background without giving too much spoilers. And again, please read it, check it out yourself, and then maybe come on back. But what is the main issue? What is the, that climactic element? Well, when Scabrous gets what he needs and the experiment continues, it gets out of control very, very fast. And there are a lot of side effects of this potent medical fluid, kind of what it gets turned into. Sludge, honestly, is probably a good word for it. And the students become infected. And not just infected as if they got a cold. No, as you can maybe see by the cover, they're not trying to really hide it too much. Infected as if becoming the Walking Dead. The undead is what they call them here. And so yes, there is a lot of horror. There are zombies running around. And Zoe and the bounty hunter, and then Zoe's brother, Rojo, who is also a Jedi, find themselves in a little bit of a sticky situation. So I sort of describe this story as Star Wars meets Liam Neeson's Taken, meets Harry Potter, meets The Secret Garden. So those are kind of some things that I thought, and it'll kind of help me form my mind around, all right, what is this story about? So maybe you agree, Star Wars meets Liam Neeson's Taken, meets Harry Potter, meets The Secret Garden. But what are some things I liked about this story? Well, I liked it showing the depths that the Sith would go for power. And specifically Darth Scabrous, he is willing to go and risk a lot of lives so that he can become immortal. And he will burn through people in order to achieve his plans. And it's very true. The Sith are going to do that. Power is going to be the ultimate motivator. And so I appreciated seeing that come to its gruesome completion. I like the trust and the friendship that began to develop between Zoe and the bounty hunter that sort of originally tracks her down. There's a dynamic and a relationship there, not a romantic one, but a friendship and a trust that is built throughout the story. I love seeing that develop. Hestizo being attuned to plant life, like I mentioned earlier, that is such a cool new element of the Force that I enjoyed sort of unpacking throughout the story. There's obviously some things that I didn't like, found confusing about the story. Obviously, this is not your atypical Star Wars story, right? This is not your typical, let's follow a Jedi on a journey and do Jedi things. No, this is a story of survival. This is a story of gore. This is a story of death. And so I can appreciate how maybe if you were just picking up a fun Star Wars tale, probably wouldn't go with this one. There's a lot of killing, and one of the elements of that is that there's some A-level characters, your main characters. There's a lot of B-level characters, and a lot of B-level characters die. And when some of them died that I had appreciated their story, was curious to see where they would go. When they died, it just kind of, the story moved on quickly. We never really had a chance to kind of decompress. It just kind of felt like we were following these characters and then we just move on. So that was just an element of the rushedness. This is not a very long story, not a very long book, so it moves. And that was just one element that, I just kind of wish maybe fewer characters, actually be able to explore them a little bit more. One of those arcs I thought was really Much Ado About Nothing, which was Zoe's brother who kind of comes to rescue her. That's why I say earlier, Liam Neeson's taken. We kind of get the almost exact speech from Liam Neeson when he calls the people that have captured his daughter, and we kind of get the same version of that here. And his arc was very unrewarding. I'll just put that. I'm not going to say what happened, but it was like, okay, well, there we go. So there were some things that I didn't like about the story. It was unique. It was different. Joe Schreiber he did a good job of what would it look like if there was a horror story in the Star Wars universe. And I think he accomplished that. It wasn't my favorite story. I gave this a 2 out of 5. And again, it's not a 1 out of 5. It is not a bad story. It just wasn't for me. But maybe you disagree. Have you read Star Wars Red Harvest? What'd you think about it? Do you think that there are some other genres that Star Wars should try out? Let me know in the description and the comments, and we'll look forward to keeping the story going. But thanks so much for watching. You can like and subscribe, and we'll continue reading through the Star Wars EU in the next video, certainly. But thanks so much, and we'll get together on the next video.